Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and welcome to WeRSC's Inside the Trojans Huddle, where we tell it like it is. Friends, Inside the Trojans Huddle is a game-like panel discussion with WeRSC columnists, staff writers, and editorial board. We first start off with the pregame show, where we introduce our panel members for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and then give you the latest USC football news. First, let's meet today's panel. Marc Kulkin, WeRSC columnist who writes the Monday Morass, Yay or Nay, Sunday Takeaways, in addition to regular season football and basketball practice reports. Chris Arledge, former William Jewell College defensive back and team captain, and WeRSC columnist who writes the popular column Musings with Arledge. Erik McKinney, publisher and editor-in-chief of WeRSC.com, and Greg Katz, that's me, your host and moderator of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and a weekly WeRSC columnist who writes the obvious and not so obvious and IMHO Sunday. Before we kick off this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, here is the latest USC football news. On Sunday, the Trojans got a pair of commitments. First, on the transfer front, former starting safety for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Bryson Shaw, through his father's announcement on social media, let it be known that his son would be wearing cardinal and gold in 2022. Shaw, a 6 foot, 195 pounder, started in 12 games last season for Ohio State. The Trojans' second commit on Sunday came from high school the ranks as four-star Wichita Falls, Texas running back Marion Peterson made his announcement for the Trojans class of 2023. Peterson, a 6 foot 182 pounder, who was considered one of the top 60 players in Texas and attended the Saturday's USC spring football game, also had offers from Alabama, Texas, and Baylor. And speaking of Saturday, the Trojans concluded spring practice with the spring game in the Coliseum, with the offense defeating the defense 34-30 before an announced record turnout of 33,427. Stay tuned to the first and second quarters of Inside the Trojans Huddle for details and analysis. Also, the Trojans also saw a large group of impressive recruits at the spring game, which also included five-star tight end Deuce Robinson from Phoenix, Arizona, along with four-star talents in attendance, which included DeAndre Moore, wide receiver from Los Alamitos, California, corners Braxton Myers from Coppell, Texas, Mika Teese from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Dalen Austin from Long Beach, California, Deshaun Fausto Ramos from Bellflower, California, running backs, Quentin Joyner from Manor, Texas, and as the aforementioned Marion Peterson from Wichita Falls, Texas, and Roderick Robinson from San Diego. For the record, five-star quarterback Malachi Nelson did not attend the spring game due to a previous 7-on-7 passing tournament commitment in Las Vegas. And class of 2004 talents present were corner Marcellus Williams from Bellflower, California, wide receiver Jason Robinson from Long Beach, offensive tackle DeAndre Carter from Santa Ana, California, and athlete Aaron Butler from Calabasas, California. Last Tuesday, the Trojans received a class of 2023 commitment from the aforementioned Quentin Joyner, the four-star running back from Manor, Texas. Joyner is 5'10", 190, had offers from, among others, Oregon, Houston, Penn State, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma State. Joyner runs a sub-11 flat 100 meters. And on another transfer note, former USC safety Chase Williams is transferred to San Jose State. And for all of you that don't care about the Rice Owls, the Trojans' 2022 home opener in the Coliseum on September 3rd. They held their spring game last weekend, and Owls quarterback TJ McMahon threw for 92 yards and a touchdown and added a 50-yard, 5-yard rushing touchdown to lead the Blue offense to a 30-12 win over the Gray defense in Rice Stadium. McMahon was also 7-12 through the air. And finally, friends, WeRSC's Inside the Trojan Huddle greatly appreciates your viewer and listenership. We appreciate and encourage those of you watching on site, like YouTube, to click the red subscriber and like buttons. It's greatly appreciated, and it is free. All right, let's get into it. Spring game. It's time for the opening kickoff and our first quarter question panel. What was your overall spring game impressions of the USC offense on Saturday? Who stood out? What position stood out? As well, we'll start off, as always, with our leadoff hitter, Marc Kulkin. Your thoughts on the offense and anyone in particular?
Yeah, for a game plan that was pretty plain Jane vanilla, it tasted great. The way the offense, it just looked different. for as vanilla as the play calling was, to watch a screen pass be completed in one motion, not telegraphing it, that, just those little subtle differences, to not have one single penalty called on the offensive line, illegal procedure, holding. Obviously Caleb Williams and Mario Williams have great chemistry working together. That was really evident. The red zone, they were scoring touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. And I guess if I want to highlight a particular player, the wide receivers did really well, but Kyron Ware-Hudson it's kind of like he had the highlight plays all day long. Kyle Ford had a great, 48-yard touchdown that Erik pointed out to me is always in the same corner of the end zone, on the east end of the field. But Kyron was just, he was catching everything. He was high pointing the ball on the sideline. He was, bullying defenders on the sideline, knocking them over. He kind of had that BMW standing over Latrell McCutcheon at one point. I mean, there's a new attitude on the offense, and we saw a running game. So it just looked different, and it looked good. They scored 34 points in 30 minutes of clock time. That's all you need to know.
So more or less, you were pleased by what you saw.
I see some positives.
Okay. Well, on that positive note, we'll turn it over to Chris Arledge for perhaps a counter view or maybe a positive view. So, Arledge, what did you think?
I thought it was great. And I'll tell you why I thought it was great, because we've spent the last, how many years? 6 years, 8 years, just watching a parade of stupidity. I mean, horrible mistakes, guys who can't get lined up, back-breaking penalties. I mean, over and over and over again. Even in the games that USC would win, you would have that over and over again. Guys can't line up right. Ridiculous play calls. I mean, it ran the gamut. The people who care enough about USC football to pay attention to this show, you already know what I'm talking about. Every week looked like a disaster. Even the successful weeks looked horrible. That actually looked like a football team. Guys got lined up. They didn't false start. They didn't miss assignments. They didn't hold. They actually knew what they were doing, and they executed. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the defense in a bit. The offense had its way with the defense for the most part. And that could concern us. I'm not sure that it does. That offense is going to do that to a lot of people. Lincoln Riley is a wizard of an offensive coach. He is. He's one of the top 2 or 3 offensive coaches in the country. Caleb Williams is everything people thought he might be. The kid is spectacular, and he's only going to get better as he gets more experience. And he's surrounded by a lot of good football players. The offensive line looked physical. Yeah, it was a good day. And there were a couple of things that I wondered about. There was at least one, maybe both of Thule's plays where he got a tackle for loss. I was a little bit curious what the offense was doing, because they were running the counter play. They were pulling guys. Thule chases after the pulling lineman and tackles the ball carrier in the backfield. I don't know whether or not it was supposed to be the bootleg that keeps Thule honest, or whether someone else was supposed to be there, maybe the H-back to block him. So there were a couple of minor things where you look at it and say that play didn't look right. But geez, I'm not going to complain about it, because USC actually has a real football coach, and they have players who know what they're doing offensively now. And I've been begging for that for years. So no, I'm not going to complain, at least not about this. That was good.
Erik, what were your thoughts on it? What did you see? You have anything to pick at, or was it all roses and rainbows?
Well, there's no point to really, I think, get into, oh, here were problems, and I had problems, because it's not finished yet. You know, you don't go in when an artist is working, you don't go a quarter of the way through or halfway through and try to pick apart all the things that look wrong right now. There's still plenty of time to fix it. So I think at this point, what Marc and what Chris have said, you take a lot of that, you take a lot of the positives. And for me, it was, everybody looks like they're speaking the same language on offense right now. Like it's fluid from the time the play comes in to where the quarterback is kind of lining guys up, telling them, what's going on. getting lined up, getting the snap, everybody moving kind of in one, motion to get that going. And then we saw plays, you see the GT counter that you're going to run that Lincoln Riley kind of made famous at Oklahoma. You get the feeling that this team can run that, and they are going to run that. The run game was there. You can feel like they are going to take pride in being able to do that. You had some of these, the play where the quarterback kind of half rolls out, the running back leaks out, and you dump it over to the running back, and he's got 20 yards to run. I mean, plays like that where they're specifically designed, we're going to get this guy open and it's going to work every time. It's been how many years where USC lines up for a 3rd and 3 and it's nail biting. It's who knows what's going to happen here. And so that was kind of the first taste of an offense where it looks like, yeah, we can just go get that. Caleb Williams jumps out immediately, took about 3 throws to sign off on him and go all in on Caleb Williams. And we've seen kind of the arm talent and stuff, all of that during practices and looking back at his time at Oklahoma last year. But I'm gonna talk just running game running backs. Those 3 running backs, I think that's for USC fans, there's a lot of years where you just sort of throw out, oh, it's the best whatever in the conference. And that's because going back 20 years ago, yeah, you did have a lot of that. And then it just kind of carried and you kept using that, even though maybe it wasn't always true over the last decade. This group of running backs is very good. And what I like about them is that it feels like every motion they make, every movement is designed to pick up yards. And these are not 3 big backs, but they will finish contact and they will finish on the right side of the tackler every single time they get hit. And that stood out. It wasn't a massive day. There weren't 25-yard runs, 30-yard runs, but they put their head down and they picked up all the yards that they could every time they touch the ball. I think that's a good sign, especially for an offense that really has to start kind of throwing its weight around and showing teams that, yeah, we're going to pick up 4 yards whenever we touch the ball, and we're going to hit some 10, 12, 15, 20-yard runs when, as often as we can. So for me, that was kind of the biggest thing was, again, we didn't see a ton of run game in terms of just big chunks and all that, but I liked how often they went to it. I liked what it looked like. And again, this is still very early in the process of getting that to where you want it to be, sort of in the finish stages when Stanford comes up, when Utah comes up, when you get to some of those teams.
Well, I think all 3 of you hit on the great points. My perspective was I was so excited on the first run play, I couldn't contain myself. It was so intense to me that I had to actually make sure I had a photo of both the off tackle and the off guard pulling on the famous counter tray, so to speak, that Lincoln Riley runs, and put it in Sunday's IMHO column. It really, really reinforced what I think everybody knows. But for me, I was so frustrated with the offense the last 3, 4, 5 years that to see a normal offense running with guys pulling and guys trapping and balance play and an H-back just alerted me just how horrible and how hideous we've all had to suffer watching what was in place the last 4 or 5 years. You knew what it was going to look like. You knew there's going to be a big difference, but what I liked was they were organized. There was no penalties. Loved the H-back concept. We were doing it one time. I saw a play action pass, which, gee, that was really a creation, wasn't it? And I actually saw the H-back, I think it was Epps or Jude Wolf, come around and take care of a corner that was coming in. It was just absolutely just scheme-wise. I don't think SC fans are gonna have to worry about the scheme. Let's put it this way. You're not gonna be distracted by saying, do they ever call this? Do they ever call that? Even a draw they were doing. I mean, it was invigorating to me. Caleb Williams, my only regret really is that he can't be here for 3 years instead of probably 2. And hey, look at Miller Moss, looked really, really advanced now. I was happy for him. I'm happy for the offense. The way Caleb actually went out of the pocket a couple of times. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to Lincoln Riley. He said it wouldn't be a game of tag, and it wasn't. It wasn't one of these, what do they like to use the word, thumping or bumping or, we touch you, but we can't give you a big hit.
Thud.
Thud. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was like, wow, this was really worth watching. It wasn't like he kind of wanted more, but it was enough. And that to me on offense was great. I think Hudson was had a great game. I was really happy for John Jackson III.
Yeah.
I mean, John Jackson III, I don't know why people kept saying, well, he's a throw-in, he's a possession. We said, the guy is good. He knows football. Now, is he Mario Williams? No, because he doesn't have that speed. But I thought that all the guys on that were receivers, they can play, and they have a specialty to them, and they're going to get in there. Now, as far as the running backs, I did want to say that Darwin Barlow, to me, he really exhibited the potential he came out of high school with, and we all know that Coach McDonald, that coaches the running backs, knew of him coming out of high school, and I really do believe that they're going to be able to use 3 running backs without them falling over each other. And I thought it was a really good sign. So a great day for the offense. Yeah, they got stopped a couple of times. You know, the defense rose to the occasion. But, you know, honestly, football is a 4-quarter game, not 2 15-minute halves. And I'm sure the adjustment will be there. But I don't know how you couldn't feel good about it watching it. I mean, it was just that impressive. So kudos to the credibility department. Riley said what he said during the limited interviews that he would have during the week about what he wanted to talk about. I thought his credibility was sky high in things he was saying, and that's a good sign. Believability is really important. Now, let's turn the page here. Let's get to the second quarter. Basically the same question. What was your overall spring game impressions of the USC defense on Saturday? Who stood out? What position groups did as well? Eric, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, sure. Can I say no? No.
Well, of course you can't say no, but I'm trying to be polite about it.
He said no.
Eric's deferring to Chris.
So the defense.
Let's not go to Chris just yet. Let's let him save up a little bit for the balance of the show. Go ahead, Eric.
It didn't start out great. If I'm throwing positives out for the defense, they fought back and did a really good job. Caleb Williams came out absolutely on fire those first 2 possessions, and then the defense really got to him, flushed him out a little bit, incompletions, drive stalled, didn't score. Defense didn't score any points in that first 15 minutes, and then started to get some 3 and outs there. So I like the fight. I like that they stayed in it and kept going. I just don't think they have enough guys yet to be the kind of defense that you want a USC defense to be. Tuli Tuipulotu, he stands out up front. When you watch the playoff, right? When you watch these Georgia playing Alabama and when Ohio State's there and all that, he's not an average guy. He's a great player, but you've got 3 of them. You've got 2, you've got 3, you've got 4 across the front. And I think that's where USC needs to go. That kind of collection of talent in that front 7. It's not shifting the line of scrimmage back. It's not pushing into the backfield yet, quite like Alex Grinch is going to want from his defense. There were tackles for loss, and they've got enough talent to be able to make some of those plays. I don't think there's enough like dominant size, speed, skill across that front 7 yet where you're doing that. We saw a few hiccups in the secondary as well. You know, the offense is going to love the 48-yard touchdown pass. The defense is going to absolutely hate that. There were a couple one-on-one things where the wide receivers got the best of the defense. Again, not a complete defense yet in terms of, I think maybe some of the impact guys that we might end up seeing when the game comes. Xavier Alford didn't play. Mekhi Blackman had been drawing rave reviews all spring. He didn't play at corner with an injury. So you're out a couple guys. I still think it's not something where you're saying, hey, this defense has no hope and is complete trash. Again, I like the fight, and I liked the physicality that they really did attempt to play with up front. So again, I'm going to take some positives from it and also some notes that there's some work to do. I think on that side more than the offense.
Okay, Mark, what do you think? What was your assessment?
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to echo what Eric said. You know, they start off a little slow, but you know, when you've got your first team quarterback and first team wide receiver going against maybe the second team cornerback, advantage offense. I mean, those first 2 touchdowns, the defender never got his head around. The ball was in the receiver's hands before the defender even knew the ball was thrown. So I don't know how much you want to fault the defense. But they were going against two pretty good guys on those first two drives. Caleb was 7 for 7 his first two drives. I think he finished the game 10 for 12. So that's kind of good. But since we're talking about the defense, one of the big concerns was that front seven. I thought the defensive line really accounted for themselves fairly well, considering that, there's talk going around that this might be one of the top 5 offensive lines in the country this year. So if that's the case, I think what we saw from Tyrone Taleni, who's still learning the game, what we know we're going to get from Thule, Nick Figueroa is going to always bring it. But then we saw a little bit of a glimpse of Solo learning his new position. So that, there's some hope there. Erik talked about the physicality. They weren't playing tag. There was 2 really hard tackles that caught my attention. One, Thule, and I think Brandon had the other one where I think he body slammed Travis Guy to the ground. And I even asked Travis, I go, does he know that you guys are wearing the same uniform now? So I think the defensive line maybe get another 1-2 guys through the portal just for numbers to help supplement the depth. I think we're gonna be okay there. I saw enough that if the linebackers can get their game in order and kind of catch up, because they're number wise, you can't fit anything between my finger and thumb. They're that thin. On Thursday before the spring game, Coach Manning had 2 guys in his group in the position practicing. That's how thin they are right now. So I think we saw enough. They accounted well towards the second half of the game. They were forcing field goals. I mean, Alex Stadhouse booted a 55-yarder with room to spare. Dennis Lynch, put his in from 30-something yards. So yeah, it was a good day for both sides. Obviously, the offense is ahead. The defense showed me enough that once the numbers are there and they're healthy, maybe they'll show better in a fall camp scrimmage.
Chris, you're a defensive guy. What was your assessment of the display we saw on Saturday?
Yeah, I like that the guys played hard. I mean, they played hard. They played physical. They were clearly giving a great effort. Now, you would expect that guys would give a great effort, but we saw the defense most of the year last year not giving a great effort. I mean, there were guys who did. Thule played hard consistently, and Kanai Moaga wasn't always great, but he always played hard. And there were other guys that did. But you had a lot of that was a defense that didn't look like it was playing hard most of the time. And so Saturday we saw that. The truth is, the roster offensively is a lot better than the roster defensively. We all know that. The roster offensively is good enough that they're going to light up the scoreboard most every week. I'm willing to bet that offense is going to score 40 points a game. That's a really good offense and a really good system and a really good play caller. They're gonna march up and down the field on lots of people. And so I'm not necessarily troubled that the defense struggled with that, because I think that at best this is going to be an average defense with the talent they have. And we'll see what it looks like in the fall. Obviously, Lincoln Riley is talking about how there's still going to be significant changes in the roster. I think he's still going to add some guys up front, and they need to, because right now that front 7 is not top 10 caliber. But they played hard and they were hitting. Tuasivi Nomura had a couple of hits, almost back to back. McCutcheon had a big hit with a bad call, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So the guys were playing hard, and that was nice. There's some talent there.
Yeah.
But there's not enough to be where we need them to be. But they played hard. I appreciate it. Oh, by the way, the corners did struggle a little bit, and it's true that Blackman wasn't playing. It's also true that they were going up against some pretty good receivers and a good quarterback. And about the head not being turned around, as a corner, when you're beat by a couple of steps, you really can't afford to turn your head around. In fact, usually you're taught not to, because that will slow you down. And if you're already 2 steps behind, usually you're taught to keep your eye on the defender, try to knock the ball out when you see him raise his hands. So I think we saw a lot of that, but we didn't see a lot of guys in the secondary who didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. You didn't have guys running down the field clean. You just had corners that could not match up with some pretty good receivers. So look, I liked the effort. I think the defense will be more talented by the fall. It's still not going to be a top 10 defense, I don't think, but it probably will be a top 5 offense. And that may be good enough to win a lot of games next year.
Greg, before you get started, Chris, so if the offense scores 40 points a game, what's the minimum number of points the defense can afford to give up on an average that USC will win every game?
Well, there's no such thing, because it doesn't matter what the averages are if you have one bad offensive performance. Look, there is a formula that people use to project the number of wins, and you can I don't have the formula with me. I've used it sometimes in my articles. But look, if this defense can give up 22, 23, 24 points a game, they're going to blow out most of the people they play. And they will be in the game with just about everybody, right? Because you're going to be in the game with Notre Dame, which is going to be good, but not great. And they'll be playing at the Coliseum. UCLA is going to be pretty good offensively, but if you're putting up 40 points on them, you're going to be in the game with them. I mean, they're going to be in the game with the better teams on the schedule, and they're going to blow out the weaker teams on the schedule if the offense plays the way I think it's going to play and the defense plays hard. Now, whether that allows you to beat an elite team once you get to a bowl game, or if we're extraordinarily lucky the playoff, that's a different story. But you play the roster you've got. And if the guys are lining up and playing hard and playing physical, that's really all you can ask for.
Well, I'll wrap it up by saying I was not shocked that the offense came on fire. We have to put in perspective that you've got a quarterback that could be an All-America quarterback if things went right the whole year. The team has a good record. Obviously, Caleb Williams knows everything about that offense by now, having played it last year at Oklahoma. So he's going to get plays off quicker than a normal quarterback is going to do. And I thought that, at some point I said, there's no Blackman there at a corner. But, when you can execute plays like they were doing early on the offense, there's not a heck of a lot the defense can do about it. The defense has seen this offense, through 14 previous practices. They know they can run the ball. So they have to respect that. Even at, inside the 10-yard line, they could run the ball. So being just a step late on a guy like Mario Williams, it's over, because you just know that Caleb Williams knows exactly where to get it. He knows everything about Williams, and it happens. I liked, Leonard Williams was there, one of the great all-time tackles for USC. He said the player that he liked was number 0 on defense. So number 0, I think, is Corey Foreman. So he was impressed. He's the one who said stuck out to him. I thought for the most part, it was a pretty good effort. I thought Shane Lee did a workmanlike performance. He had nice tackles. I don't know that he was as dominant as I thought he was going to be, but that may be more the case of the offense being balanced and having to respect two parts of the game. I thought Romello Height was fine. To me, the secondary is going to be interesting, because when Bryson Shaw comes in from Ohio State, that we talked about in the opening of this Inside the Trojans Huddle, what difference is he going to make when he's in the secondary? And how is that going to affect everybody else? But by and large, I'm not overly concerned about the defense. I am concerned about the depth of the defense. But what we're going to see between now and May 1st being, of course, the last day you can transfer without having to go apply with the NCAA for a petition to be eligible next year, is going to be fascinating to me. So I think the defense will improve as the system goes, but they're going to outscore people to win. I have little doubt about that. So, all right, let's keep the show moving. halftime. Now, here's your question, panel. Given the spring game at the Coliseum was free to the general public and televised live on ESPN at noon, which was Pacific time, of course, 3:00 Eastern time, what was your overall attendance impressions outside of the game itself? So let's start off with Chris. I'm sure you I think probably watch it. You live in the Texas area. So what was your impressions from watching it on the tube?
It sounded like a pretty lively crowd, and not a bad one. I don't know. I think they announced 33,000 as the attendance. I don't know what to make of that. I thought they lied about the attendance numbers all last year, so I don't know if it's 33 or not. I had predicted 20, and I think McKinney had predicted 20,001, so he was closer this week. Congratulations. I think 33,000 is a pretty good number if that's the real number. I mean, it's spring football in Southern California. Pete was selling out the Coliseum, but he wasn't getting 33,000 to show up to spring game. So I think it's a pretty good number. I wasn't disappointed in the slightest, and it sounded like it was a pretty lively crowd that was excited to be there. So I think that was a pretty good showing. I suspect that USC is pretty happy with it.
Eric, were you happy with it?
Yeah, Chris, with the attendance last year, just remember it's not a lie if you believe it. There were a ton of people there. Yes, the USC fans, Los Angeles fans, sports fans do not come out for these events. They don't. It was striking how many people were there, putting people on both sides. This is, you think back about the crowds that were there during Pete Carroll's run, during when Kiffin was there, Sarkisian, all of those. I feel like this dwarfed those crowds, and USC put a big emphasis on getting people out there, getting people in the stands. They wanted it to look good for TV. I thought the crowd was good. Lincoln Riley is going to play up how good the crowd was and the atmosphere. It's one of those things where you fake it till you make it. You keep talking about how good the crowd is, how great USC fans are, and you want them there. And they're going to believe it. They're going to kind of get pumped up just like the players will when the coach coaches the players to play better. He's going to coach the fans to fan better, I guess. But USC fans are believing it, and they came out, I think, in numbers. It was a good crowd. I don't know that there were 33 there, but there were more than 20. I'm sure there were more than 20, which is what Chris, you and I both kind of said. So in terms of just that, in terms of it what my guess was going in, I got to say that they were well over that. So yeah, I think USC fans did a great job showing up. It's going to get right, and I sort of said this on social media. It'll get laughed at by the Oklahoma fans and the Ohio State fans and the LSU fans and anybody who wants to kind of kick USC while they're down for what happened last year. But it's not. It was not an embarrassing number at all in terms of this type of game in Los Angeles. I'm sure there was some huge music festival going on. The Festival of Books across the street, which is no joke in terms of how many people are there and what that does to parking and the surrounding area. So to get that many people in the stands, I thought was a really good showing by USC.
Mark, what did you think? You were there. What was your overall impressions? You walked the stadium, the whole thing. What was your evaluation of it all?
To Eric's last point, because of the book fair, it probably kept fans away from the Coliseum. I know for a fact that people they probably left their house too late, and there's like, what, there's just too much traffic. I'm not going. So 33,427 was the number. That's probably been massaged a little bit. But that was the largest spring crowd that I can remember, going back through the Pete Carroll years. And if they're going to make a big enough announcement that we've been tracking this number since the late 90s and putting it out there, let's give it to them, because they made the effort to make this happen. This really meant a lot to the people behind the scenes. Lincoln Riley's the front man, and he's going to talk about it, but there was a lot of effort behind the scenes to make this happen. Again, because it was on ESPN, to make sure that both sides of the Coliseum had fans on it. Just those subtle little things, they make a difference. For me, it's a solid A, as if we're going to give a letter grade. And I think, was it you, Eric, who said it? Or it was either you or Scott who said it to me. Should we anticipate a sold-out Coliseum when Rice comes to town in September? If this is what we're going to get in the spring, because it's so new and the energy and the excitement levels up there, why can't you get 77,000 for the first game of the year? You almost got 35,000, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that, and I go back to basketball, what they were able to do there. It feels like USC right now, because of the goodwill that they've earned in going out and hiring Lincoln Riley and doing some of this stuff, they can almost create their own sellout, I guess. If they want to pick an event and they want to bump attendance for it, they're showing right now that they can do that. They can get people out when they put a concerted effort in. It feels very much to me like they're going to target that Rice game and try to load it up and get everybody there. They'll figure out a way, to get high school kids there and recruits and all of that, give them out, give tickets out. I don't think they'll have to go to what UCLA sometimes has to go to, where they're just dropping them from helicopters to anybody who wants to pick them up and go for free. But I do, it feels like they're going to target that, and they're going to want a big crowd, big atmosphere for that season opener. And they were able to pump up, because again, was it 33? Probably not. Was it more than anybody I think was probably guessing was going to be there? Yeah. So yeah, I think they've shown that they can do that with the crowd.
They want to sell the Coliseum out real easy. You have Reggie Bush lead the team out, and he's carrying his Heisman. You promote that, you will have people standing outside looking to buy tickets above face value.
Another jersey at the peristyle line.
There you go. That's all I got to say.
You guys are getting, you know what you just did. Greg's now going to have to go off on this subject, and I don't want to have to hear it. I'm gonna duck out for the next few minutes.
I hear OJ's available also.
Greg's going to create a new quarter to break into where he gets his musings to talk about Reggie.
What Chris just did was prevent me from getting off on this subject. So
you should take one for the team.
I'm not going to go there. I have no problem if Bush wants to come out and Mark wants to, froth from his mouth in excitement. It's fine with me.
We're talking about selling out the Coliseum, Greg.
Let me tell you, Mark, they're not coming to the Coliseum to see Reggie Bush in a civilian uniform run out on the field waving a number 1 finger. Now, maybe if he was in uniform number 5, I could get into it, but
let's just say that I was the closest to the actual attendance.
No, you went over.
Wait,
but I was still the closest.
No. We're not gonna. I'm not letting you slide on that one, dude. Look,
what did Culkin say?
Arledge. Hold on. You're gonna get your point during the lighting with a torch. I'm afraid you're gonna switch subjects now, but the Coliseum holds 77,500. Okay, if you divided 77,500 in half, okay, and then I don't think there was 33,427, but I agree with you guys where you say, look, it was better than 20,000, which was great. Sunny day in Southern California. LA is a horizontal community. People aren't going to drive in for an exhibition game, but that doesn't mean they didn't watch it on television. I think it was a win-win. If you watched it on TV, I watched it on TV, Chris watched it on TV. I wanted to watch it on TV because I wanted to see how they were going to fill those 2 hours and what they were going to say about USC. I have no doubt there was a specific audience that SC wanted to see that scrimmage. That if 200 recruits that they're going after, whether it's the class of next year or the year after, they had to be watching. And it was 2 hours of the greatest infomercial you could possibly have. Herb Street wasn't there, but Robert Griffin III was. Both he and Joey Galloway were effusive in their praise for USC. I thought Matt Berry did a good job on the call. It was just, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. So SC also did a great job of positioning people in the Coliseum to give the perception of filled sidelines from 20 to 20. Okay, there wasn't too many behind the end zone extra point type of deals where you get a real look at it. I thought that the crowd was into it from what I could tell. But down the line, I'll wrap it up with this. Is there going to be a sellout for Rice? I thought there was a possibility when Lincoln Riley was named and Caleb Williams was in the conversation of whether he's coming or he's going. There was enough information live and on television that people are going to be fired up. I don't care if they were playing Cal State LA to open the game this season. It doesn't matter whether it's the Rice Owls or it's UC Davis. It doesn't matter. People are excited to see Caleb Williams, that offense. Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing. If they kick off at an appropriate time, people are going to come, and SC is going to make the big effort, like all of you said, to fill the Coliseum. It's really conceivable now more than ever that that's a real possibility. Personally, I hope they do it. I hope it looks like a playoff game. People are going to be fired up about it. I'm already fired up about it because I think that what I saw on television was like, my goodness, people pay millions of dollars to rent out time on TV, and ESPN put them right there at the 3:00 East Coast time slot that they'd love during the regular season. So it was all good. That's how I looked at it. And we won't talk anything about Reggie Bush. All right, let's get to the third quarter. But before we start the second half, excuse me, I want to remind everybody you're listening or watching WeAreSC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle. This week's panelists are Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, Erik McKinney, and I'm Greg Katz. We also encourage you to check out WeAreSC.com, part of the On3 network, and become a subscriber to the best coverage of USC football and Trojans athletics. And as a bonus for the curious, there is currently a special spring practice. WeAreSC 7-day free trial, including monthly or yearly discount options to view our exclusive content on On3, which also includes analysis, breaking stories, and data for USC football, basketball, and the balance of USC athletics. So, third quarter. Panel, we kick off the second half of third quarter with this. After watching or seeing the spring game, what additions or subtractions would you make for next year's spring game? Mark, any thoughts on that?
I don't know if you can really add to anything. I like we talked about this already. I think the way they planned it with the 30 minutes of, actual game, the crowd got to see how they're going to warm up pregame. The 2 hours felt filled and it went by pretty quickly. So I don't know, maybe a little bit more of their pregame entrance would have been nice. You heard the Eminem "Lose Yourself" when they were on the field waiting for the kickoff. If that's going to be how they, incorporate it this year, I'm good with that, but I would prefer it with the team running out of the tunnel, I guess. But that was nice. So overall, great. I don't know if I would add or subtract anything.
Chris, what would you add or subtract, or is it just good the way it was?
Well, it was good the way it was. There are two things that I would like to see. One is I would like to see USC honor Reggie Bush on the field. And then number two,
I'm so mad that you got to go before me.
Number two, I'd like to see about 3 additional 5-star defensive linemen on the field. If I could get those two things, I'd be very happy. But no, I thought they did a good job with it, and I was pleased.
Erik, you were there. Erik, how early did you get there for this festivities?
I didn't get there too early. I was there. I don't know what time it was, 10:30, something like that, where they started kind of going at 11 or so, and then game started at noon. So again, once you got past kind of the traffic around the stadium, it was easy to get in and out. But I thought the gameplay, all that kind of stuff, it's what was expected, and I thought it was good. The crowd was good. I liked the t-shirt idea, putting them out there. Was good. The food trucks, all of that kind of stuff. I liked. You got some fans down on the field, catching punts and kicking field goals, and the race with Taj Washington, who does not care about your kids. He's going to beat those kids in a 40-yard dash. I
don't think anybody caught a punt either, Erik. So
one. The guy who won caught 1 punt. The other 2, none. I'd like to, so you had in the Trojan tailgate, you've got Sean Cody and you've got Stuart Cravens, and Matt Leinart came back, so you've already got kind of a collection of former players that mean something to USC fans there. Leonard Williams was there. We saw Tony Burnett was there. Scott Felix was there. So you had some guys. I'd love to go back a little bit farther and bring some, USC legends. And if it's guys that played in the last 5 years, 10 years, that's great. I think you can go back and bring guys from, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, some of that, and get some of those in. When it's televised, it's hard. Who do you pick to do interviews with? Where do you put them there? Do you not let people do the catch a punt thing and introduce them there? I thought you could maybe organize something with that a little bit better. I think when the fans flocked down on the field and players, Mark, you mentioned it too. Players stayed for a long time to sign autographs afterward. They made sure anybody who wanted one got one. I'd love to see, you've got guys from previous teams down there too signing autographs. I think USC fans, you've got a handful of colleges, of football programs where their fans connect with guys from 20 years ago, from 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I think USC could take maybe more advantage of that. And maybe I just missed them, some of those guys that were there. But USC has done such a good job, and that's the administration, and that's Lincoln Riley as well. Ronnie Lott has come back to talk. Mark Sanchez is there a lot. Matt Leinart's there. They have done a good job bringing those guys back. Anthony Munoz is a guy that came back this spring. They've done a good job bringing those guys back into the program and making sure they're connected. I think there's probably potentially a spring game, spot for some of those guys.
I was going to ask you after the game, where did they actually do the autographing? Was it on the field? Were they one of the things I saw.
Fans came down.
It was, I think they were doing it in the peristyle end.
They came down and then shuffled them, down that way, and then the players came back through the field. But I think previously they last year they had them up right at under the peristyle, I think, signing right there, and fans came along there. But as we were coming down to the field, the fans were lining up on the field, and so I think they came down on the field and then stayed around where the track was, like around the dirt part of it, to go up toward the peristyle.
The funniest line came from the PA announcer was, "Please do not take the field of play home with you." They literally made that announcement. It's like, leave it there. Don't pick up the grass.
I think you make a good point. Maybe in the future, they have the team signing on one side and maybe get a group of alumni that are, pretty much well-known, and have on the other side, like Anthony Munoz signing and Ronnie Lott. I know that these guys like to get paid for doing it, but
Lynn Swann will sign autographs.
Yeah, if they want to really help the program, so to speak, just is Chris going to be able to control himself?
I don't know. Am I the only one that caught the Lynn Swann will sign autographs? Man?
I was laugh coughing. I had to mute it.
I tried to leave the Swanee. I won't do it for free, Katz, so don't even go there. Comment. But no, I think if they had maybe 10 or 11, legendary Trojans signing, not only does that bring the fans together, it teaches the younger ones about the players that came before, that are legends they may have heard of. I think it's a situation where, one of the things I did like, they showed Caleb Williams running down this huge line on the field of people, looked like after the game, and he was high-fiving everybody. And I thought that was so classy. I said to myself, this guy is too good to be true, because everyone that saw him do that could get up close and personal, and just to see him, because he's going to be bigger than what you can believe, especially by the end of next year. He could be the Heisman Trophy winner, who knows? But what a great PR move for him to do that. And that's the type of stuff that if you're going to bring SC football back from the depths of abyss and apathy, this was, to me, it was perfect. So kudos to all of those people. And maybe next year we can have an alumni table of guys signing, which I think would just even add more to the ambiance when it was over. So,
hey, how about a Pat Hayden dunk tank? That would be great as a fundraiser too. And maybe we could have some of USC's most successful businessmen just on the field passing out cash to high school players. Every high school player that wants to go just signs an NIL agreement for the day, and we just pass out cash.
That's it. Greg,
Maybe.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Chris is, for those of you that don't know, this is warm-ups and stretching for Chris to present his musings with Arledge coming up momentarily. So are you warmed up, Chris?
No, I'm actually in a good mood. It's gonna turn dark in a second, but right now I'm happy. I was thinking we could have a Clay Helton impersonation contest where people get to line up and make that surprise look on their face and then utter the best Clay Heltonisms, like warriors or situational mastery, something like that, and we could take a vote of a winner. I mean,
you should know that Georgia Southern held their spring game this weekend, and I don't know why I'm getting his tweets, but he was so appreciative of the big turnout that showed up, I think at Paulson Stadium or whatever, and he was just euphoric in his praise. And I said, boy, I tell you, what a world apart we are in now. So let's move on here.
wait, Greg, I want to jump one thing. You mentioned Caleb Williams. This kid was born for this. That the LA, the spotlight, he took he jumps up on the wall, takes a picture with the student section over there after that spring game. He makes sure anytime the marching band is out there, he's talking to all of them, pointing them out, thanking them for being there. He understands. It was like, it must have been a crash course for him on what's important at USC and what do you need to do as the quarterback, because he is picking up on all of it. And like you mentioned, he's finding time to do all that stuff, and it's important to him. So he's absolutely embraced everything that comes with what's expected of him at USC.
Righto. All right. It's time for the fourth quarter, but as tradition has it here on Inside the Trojans Huddle, we do the lighting of the symbolic Chris Arledge Coliseum torch.
It's almost dead. Look at it. Please get a new candle, please.
Well, if you're a good boy, I might consider it.
I don't know what that means.
All right. In lieu of the fact, of course, that we don't have the William Tell Overture of the Marching Band, we are proud to present to all of you watching or viewing the Huddle's version of Musings with Arledge, with the great Chris Arledge. Chris, it's all yours.
Thank you, Greg. Can I speak directly to Pac-12 officials for just a second? At least the few of you who aren't institutionalized and are able to watch YouTube. Last week on this program, I complained about the job you guys do. Now, you probably didn't notice because everybody complains about you all the time, and so it probably didn't hit your radar. But I complained specifically about the way you guys call targeting penalties. And so what happened Saturday? Latrell McCutcheon makes a great break on a ball, puts his shoulder into the receiver's chest, dislodges the ball, makes a great football play. He should have been celebrated, applauded. Everybody should have patted him on the head. And you guys throw a flag, right? Of course you do. You threw a flag because it was a hard hit, and hard hits always draw flags from Pac-12 officials. Now listen. I'm not asking for competence from you guys. I'm really not. I know better. I'm not going to ask for something that makes absolutely no sense. And asking for competence would make absolutely no sense. It would make more sense for me to marshal all my assets and put them on one spin of the roulette wheel than would be to ask for you guys to be competent. At least with the roulette wheel, theoretically, a good outcome is possible. I'm just asking you guys to apply the targeting rule the way it's supposed to be for actual hits to the head and hits using the crown of the head. Stop penalizing guys for making great plays. Stop trying to remove physicality from the game. The only person who's removed physicality from the game more than you guys is Clay Helton. I'm not asking you to be great. You don't have to be great. Just stop being terrible. That's my request. You might say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Signed, all Pac-12 football fans.
All right. Excellent note. You made Mark's day. I'm sure you made a lot of people's day that's watching or listening. That is the Musings with Arledge. We hope you get a chance to read his column whenever it comes out next. Nothing like putting a little pressure on the great one. So let's move on here. We begin the fourth quarter. The NFL draft begins this Thursday night from Las Vegas and runs through Saturday. For players from USC that we know are in the draft, wide receiver Drake London, running backs Keontae Ingram and Favai Malapai, corners Chris Steele, Isaac Taylor Curtis, inside linebacker Kanai Malga, offensive lineman Jalen McKenzie and Liam Jimmons, defensive end Drake Jackson, of course, and tight end Eric Homenhoek. Guys, who's going high? Who's going to be in trouble? Eric, give us an overview.
Well, first of all, Chris, is Isaac Taylor Curtis? Is he a silent film star? Do we know where
it's Mosai's cousin?
Okay. So here's my feeling. Drake London is going in the first round. Absolutely. I'm a little concerned in terms of, is he the first wide receiver off the board just because he didn't run a 40? And the NFL loves tangible evidence, I guess, of what they can prove in terms of speed. I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. I would take him, put him on my team and go from there. He's kind of a no-brainer for me. I think Drake Jackson ends up going maybe a little higher than people think. I think he's a guy that when you sort of try to balance the defense he played in and what he was asked to do and everything that he had to go through, when you just look at specific film of pass rush moves and wins and what he is able to do there athletically, I think a lot of people are really going to like him. I think Keontae Ingram ends up probably being a mid-round pick, fourth round, fifth round. And I really think that might be it. I think, I've come to grips over the last few years with the fact that USC players do not get the benefit of the doubt anymore from NFL people like they did when Pete Carroll was here. You always knew someone's taking some USC guy in the 7th round, in the 6th round, just because let's get him on our team and see. We know he's been coached well and we know that he's a football player and he's going to produce something. It feels like it's been a while since USC players have gotten that benefit of the doubt. I could see maybe Chris Steele going late. I think Jalen McKenzie's probably done a lot this offseason to improve his draft stock. And obviously his dad has the NFL connections and Jalen's been kind of, going that way and understanding what it takes to be a pro for a long time. But no, I'll say 3 and be pleasantly surprised if it goes more than that for USC.
What do you think, Culkin? Is it going to go 3 or is it gonna be more?
I know. I think Eric hit that number square on the head. And, I guess the only place I disagree is maybe Ingram slides down to maybe a last day pick. I don't know if just the running back just isn't valued in the NFL. And because of that, you know what? You got a value pick and you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Drake London is definitely going to be day 1. Drake Jackson is probably and should be day 2. And after that, you know what? If a team sees a need and they like, some of those USC players that are probably going to be free agent signings, like a Chris Steele, they might slide in there 6th, 7th round, 5th, 6th round, somewhere in there. I don't know if do they still do the, Mr. Irrelevant? Is that still going on?
To my knowledge, it is.
Okay. Maybe USC takes home that award this year. It would seem apropos.
All right, Chris.
Just to end the Clay Helton era.
All righty, Chris. What do you see?
No, I think that's right. It wouldn't shock me if somebody else snuck into the very late rounds. Chris Steele probably the most likely one. I don't think Keontae Ingram's going in the mid rounds. I think he's probably a late round choice, although I think he's a good player and I think he'll stick on a roster. Drake London is a superstar. I don't know what to make of I don't know what to make of Drake Jackson. His production in college was only so-so. I think that there are a lot of people we could blame for that, but I think the NFL is going to be enamored by his size and athleticism. He tested really well. So he's a guy who could sneak into the first round. Everybody needs a pass rusher. And it may be that there's some teams that think that a guy with his ability can be coached up. But I think that's probably it. And look, it's true that USC guys aren't getting the benefit of the doubt, but 4 and 8 teams don't get the benefit of the doubt like that. So I think the other guys are going to have a hard time sticking on a roster, although I'd love to see Kanai Mauga do it, maybe as a special teams guy who will, who'll give up his body running down, covering kicks and the like. But yeah, I think the guy's got it right.
All right.
Taylor Stewart Curtis might, because of his intangibles, big, fast, he'll be intriguing. I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No problem. I'll wrap this part up by saying London will be a top 10 pick. If it's the Jets, they certainly like USC players, no doubt about that. I don't know what to make of Drake Jackson. I don't know whether it's poor coaching, whether it's the kid, a combination of both. But he's, to me, a person that you really want to watch to see what the NFL thinks of whether he's a high pick draft worthy. I think Chris Steele slides. I think that there's a lot of things about him that you could say, as Mark would say, the intangibles. I'm not let's put it this way. I don't think he lived up to the billing coming out of high school, in my opinion. I hope he gets picked high. Good for him. I think the wild card to me, you'll probably all go, really? Favai Malapai. I think this guy has, in the time that he's shown, he's an all-around back. Again, if he gets picked by the right team, he's a guy that could be on a special teams. I think he's a team player, give you everything he has, and he runs hard, which the NFL likes. So I'm kind of rooting for him, because I felt that if he had came along in the Pete Carroll era, he could have been a Stanley Havili, in my opinion. So what I will say in conclusion of this, good luck to all of them. I hope you all get drafted and that you can have a career in the NFL, whether it be for a year, 2 or 6. But I'll be rooting for you personally. So, all right, we get to the overtime period. We've got some questions from the listeners from all over the place. If you'd like to submit a question that we can answer or give you our opinion, just go to either the Gary T or WeRSC members message board at weRC.com. From there, you'll see the topic thread regarding questions for Inside the Trojans Huddle. All right, first question. This is from Dr. Bert Iwata from Altadena, California. Maybe there should be a different measurement for player penalties in a game. Have you ever thought of doing what they do in hockey and penalize a player minutes depending on the offense? For example, if a player is caught targeting, he goes off the field for a major penalty of maybe 15 minutes, is replaced by another player. Does the panel think that minutes off the field would cut down penalties on it? Guys, who wants to go for this one? It's all you.
Well, usually coaches take care of that. And if a guy's committing penalties, they'll take him off the field with the intent of reducing penalties. I don't know that I'm excited about that rule change. I mean, the last thing I want is for Pac-12 officials to be in charge of which USC starters are allowed to be on the field. I mean, can you imagine the damage those clowns could do? So I don't want that. But, I would like to see a coach that actually takes players off the field for bonehead penalties, late hits and the like. That would be a nice change. I suspect we will see that.
And you do need to fix that targeting rule, how it's penalized and that stuff. I mean, when they're ejected, when you can take the penalty away, if there are different levels of that. But again, like you said, putting more decisions in the hands of officials who clearly already have too much to deal with that's a tough proposal.
You know what I think they ought to do? They ought to do what they do in hockey. You get a player removed, and it's like a power play. So you can have 11 on offense against 10 on defense, and watch how they scramble. Then quarterbacks can sit there and they can run the clock down to try to kill penalty time for their teammate that's on the sidelines.
I'd like to thank you for making Chris's point for him even better. Thank you.
We watched that last
year. Actually humbled that I could make a point that's better than, especially coming from you, Culkin, because we know
you didn't say better. He didn't say you made the point better than
you. Just supported Chris's point better than anybody could have.
And you know what? You fell for that perfectly. Mark is, by the way, the president of the Chris Arledge fan club. He will be passing.
He and I have a very
newsletter.
similar, yes.
Okay.
Sarcasm
Let's
is
go.
good.
Question number 2 from Trojan Sage. Hi, guys. USC has been very quiet on the transfer portal since Caleb committed. I'm not sure if we're missing on guys available or the staff has been very focused on the spring. Ochon Mathis will announce at the end of the month. Still no visit to USC. Dermoni and Robinson of Penn State. I've heard that Hakeem Mesidor is high on Miami and will not likely visit USC anymore. Those are the top rush ends we needed badly. Are the staff content with Height and Foreman? Is Solo really showing off to really not to pursue other elite rush ends in the portal, or are we waiting for more transfers after the spring game is done? Go for it, guys.
More are coming.
Yeah, they're waiting for more transfers at all times. The transfer portal is a constant presence in college football now, and the idea that what it looks like now is what it's going to look like tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever is not there. There's guys flooding into it as we're recording this today on Monday. The rest of this week, there's going to be guys all over it, and yeah, USC is recruiting at every single position. They're targeting people in the transfer portal or are ready to pounce when people come in. And Lincoln Riley said that also all spring. They are not set. They don't feel set completely at any position. They don't feel like it's alarms blaring and everything's wrong at any spots. But yeah, like Mark said, more are coming everywhere.
Grinch said it right after the game. They are going to look at any player possible, and they're going to leave it up to the team, though. If they have a leadership council, Eric, those are the guys who vet the players. Mm-hmm. Will they fit the culture? So they're just not going to bring somebody in. If somebody gives the thumbs down, it's they're out. So
when it comes to the edge rushers mentioned in the question, if you're talking about a couple of guys who are East Coast guys and are probably going to stay on the East Coast, that's not a shock. It might be more surprising for an East Coast guy to run to USC so they can compete with Romello Height and Corey Foreman, because there's no guarantee that you're going to beat those guys out. I mean, we haven't seen much on the field from either one of them yet, but you're talking about two guys that have a ton of talent. And so, yeah, I suspect there aren't a lot of guys who are interested in coming across the country to go compete with those two guys for playing time.
And not ball.
Yeah.
All right. Last quick question from Big Daddy. While not exactly NIL related, but NIL inspired, how active are assistant coaches on securing a secondary income stream? What kind of guidelines does the NCAA have for this? I would sure appreciate someone like Josh Henson to stabilize that position group with some long-term success, both on and off the field in the pipeline. Any comments?
Technically, USC can have nothing to do with NIL. Technically, the school cannot associate with that and get anybody set up. What the decision has been throughout college football is just to, not care about what the laws are. And so you've got this you have this absolute gray area with what NIL was supposed to be, which is a guy like Caleb Williams talking to a company like Beats by Dre and coming up with a way where he can do things to promote the company, and in turn he can get paid in whatever with from that company. What you have now are these collectives that schools across the country have, where boosters just funnel money into a giant, it's the cartoon sack with the dollar sign on it. And from that, the players get to just reach their hand in, recruits, players, whatever it is. And you can have this money from this collective. And some of them try to attach, you need to do an autograph signing here and we'll give you $20,000 to do an autograph signing. Or the big one that got a lot of attention was from Texas. I think it's Horns with Heart was where it started. And it's for Texas offensive linemen, they can make up to $50,000 a year by doing some charity appearances and that sort of thing. Technically, that flies in the face of what you're allowed, because NIL is not just Texas offensive lineman. It's someone's specific name, image, likeness. So again, everyone has just decided that whatever rules there are don't matter. That being said, for this situation, the USC assistant coaches are very much showing and telling, I guess, recruits, hey, this is what student athletes at USC can get. This is what has been achieved by some of these players. Is that establishing things for them and doing it for them? No, it's showing them, hey, this is what's on the table for you potentially to come here. And yes, USC has been very good and very open and honest with recruits and with transfers and with players and all of that, of what's on the table for you in terms of NIL, what you can accomplish financially by coming to USC. But the idea that a coach is sitting there with a company and the player and saying, okay, you're going to give him this much if he comes here and that sort of thing. No, that kind of stuff USC does well in terms of compliance and kind of following what the law should be, and also figuring out how to take advantage of being in Los Angeles and being a leader as they should be in NIL.
USC is still reading chapter 1 of NIL. Oklahoma has already gone to the back of the last page and said, if you're on scholarship, you get $50,000 a year. So somewhere between USC, who is interpreting what NIL is supposed to be, and what Oklahoma is saying, this is what NIL is, that's where we're at right now. Can the coaches do something? Who's going to tell them no? USC? What's going to happen? The court's already said you can't tell them no. So go do it.
Right. Again, if you wanted to just say, look, this is what's going on and we're diving in, yeah, that would take it to a different level, I think, of in terms of what USC is doing right now. It feels like they're really trying to follow kind of letter of the law and what it was supposed to be when it was in. And I do think eventually we're going to see it kind of correct back to that. How long that'll take and if it actually happens is very much in the air. But yeah, schools have just decided, no, NIL means you get paid for being here. So some schools have just dived straight into that.
All right, are we good, guys? All right, well, that's a wrap for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. Big thank you to this week's panel of Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, and Erik McKinney, and a special thank you to all of you for watching or listening to Inside the Trojans Huddle. Until next Tuesday, this is your host, Greg Katz, reminding all of you to fight on, everybody.